Hello, and welcome to the Northwest Cavalryman Show, the podcast where your host, Rick Skolrud, discusses politics and news from Canada, the United States, and around the world, from a conservative perspective. Warning: professionally offended people and liberal crybabies may be triggered. Viewer discretion is advised. While we put the finishing touches on this podcast, you are invited to visit the show notes. There are links to all of Rick's social media, including his website where you can sign up to take the Canadian Firearms Safety Course, which is a prerequisite for obtaining your Canadian Firearms License, also known as a PAL. Rick teaches these courses in Maple Bay just east of Duncan on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Now here's your host, Rick Skolrud.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? I hope everybody is doing well. You've probably noticed that I haven't put up too many videos this week. I've been working on my classroom because I'm going to have a class this week of well, you know what? It started off, it was supposed to be 9 people, and 8 of them have dropped out. So won't be very much at all, unfortunately, but that's just the way it goes. So I hope everybody is having a great evening, and as usual, please let me know if everything is coming through okay, if there's any echo or any problems with the audio. Just let me know, but hopefully everything's okay. I don't know if my social stream is it's hit and miss. Like sometimes it hooks up to my Rumble and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't really know if it's happening all that well, but we'll see. So just say hello to a few people while I'm, we're letting some people join in. Got, who else? Who do we have here? We've got, geez, I'm really sorry. I won't be able to pronounce your name very well, but Inez Kelman? Inez, is that how you pronounce your name? I'm not quite sure. Hello from, I'm assuming you're from Edmonton. I don't know for sure. Probably not. Actually, I'm probably assuming wrong. Hey, Jimmy, how's it going? Jimmy Nelson from New Brunswick. Hello again. David, hello again from Maple Ridge. Tracy, thanks for joining us, and then them. I don't know where you're from, but hello, Francis. Jennifer Francis, how you doing? Corey from Roberts Creek, BC. I gotta look that up. I don't think I've been to Roberts Creek. Maybe I have been. Hello, Paul. Storm. Where are you from, Storm? Hello, Mike. So just to get started here, as I said, like I was, hello, Harley. I was doing a lot of work on getting some tables and stuff ready for my class, and I figured I'd need at least 3 tables, and then a whole bunch of people dropped out, so I figured, okay, I'm going to need 2 tables. And just the other day, everybody else dropped out, so I only need 1 table. Hopefully, the one person who has confirmed is actually going to show up, because it would be a real bummer, real downer if I'm here all alone on Saturday, not doing any work around the house because I'm waiting for a student. But we'll see what happens. So other than that, it's I haven't really been putting up too many videos because of that this week. Hopefully I'll get a little bit more done next week, but I still have some more work to do around the house. And of course, it is not quiet on the Canadian political scene at all, with all of this stuff going on with the Liberals and their convention. Hello, Mike. This is one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, because I had this question and it was answered today because I looked it up, because obviously I just should have looked it up as soon as I had the question. But the question was, could somebody serve as prime minister if they weren't a member of parliament? And they can. And I just don't think it's right. I absolutely do not think it's right. Let me know in the chat and in the comments below if you think that this is right. But I mean, I could see people getting really, because of our awareness now of politics and really our distrust of the Liberals, I can see people getting quite annoyed at this, and maybe this would even lead to us giving up on this parliamentary system, or if not giving up on it, at least changing it quite significantly. Because as you can see here, somebody can be the prime minister without actually being elected. So, and John Turner did it, and actually Mackenzie King did it a couple of times as well. I'm not sure if anybody else did it, but what really is annoying is that when you think about it, we have a Liberal Party who is unilaterally deciding for us who will be the Prime Minister of Canada. I don't think that's right. I think that is, I think that we need to change our system. Whether we just alter the rules a little bit, or whether we become a full-blown republic, which I think probably we're about time. Now, I'm not saying that we have to get rid of the parliamentary system, because there are parliamentary republics, but I think everybody here knows that I am pro joining the United States. And I know that a lot of people don't like that, but I think there's a lot of benefits to that. However that looks, and whether that's an economic union or whatever, it's better economically if we have some sort of a better relationship. I'm not saying that I don't think that we'll ever join politically the United States. I don't think that is in the cards ever. And the reason why is I just don't believe that people are for that. I don't think that they would go for it. So I mean, that's just my opinion. There have been a lot of people saying that as many as 13% Canada-wide. I've seen numbers as high as 16% in previous years that are for that. And I've seen, but I've heard recently that it's only 10%, or that is 13%. Heard that it's higher in Alberta. But what is very interesting now is Danielle Smith's what she's been doing with regards to this threat of tariffs. And it's kind of scary, because I don't want Canada to break up. I absolutely do not want Canada to break up. I think that would be a terrible thing. I also don't want Canada to be the 51st state. I think that would be a terrible thing. If we did join politically, I would prefer it being 10 extra states. But I know that's not going to happen unless what I'm afraid will happen happens. And what I'm afraid will happen is that Alberta will finally decide they've had enough. Because right now, all of the premiers except for Danielle Smith have agreed to a united plan to deal with all these tariffs. And the problem is, it looks like it's not really a good idea for Alberta. And I can see where she's coming from. I don't really like the idea at all either. So what could happen there? I mean, I want to put it out there to you. What do you guys think? Is Alberta almost to the point of giving up? Because if they did, I could see the confederation collapsing, and I don't want that to happen. I absolutely do not want that to happen. I think that would be terrible. I want to somehow maintain Canadian identity, whether it's part of a greater unified North America or not. But I'm not too optimistic right now, just because of how things are going. And we got this Carney fellow, and who I just don't like. He's a fairly smooth talker. He's a far better communicator than Justin Trudeau. But is he really good for Canada? And I don't think he is. I was actually watching between working on my tables and getting ready for the show here. I was watching True North, and Candace Malcolm was talking with Diane Francis. And I've mentioned Diane Francis on this channel before. I have her book. If anybody is interested in kind of some of the options for Canada, going forward, if it was a union with the United States, and I'm not saying a political one, it could be an economic one. She actually she lays out at least 3 in her book, possibly even 5 different options of how it could look. But what I found interesting was Pierre today, and putting out, and I don't have this. I did not have time to set it up, but Pierre was talking about basically getting Canadians involved in a Doge program. Like, tell us how you would like to see us streamline and whatnot. And one of the big things about any sort of economic union, having a better relationship with our neighbors to the south, is having a unified currency, but it would also involve having a unified kind of tax system, or like maybe not unified, but kind of equalized, or something, that it was similar. So we're not paying over 50%, close to 60% of our wages on taxes. And a lot of those taxes are hidden taxes. For example, if you go and buy gas and you think all of the taxes you're paying are the carbon tax and the GST and the fuel tax and the excise tax, all these taxes, those aren't the only taxes you're actually paying. Because the guy who brought the fuel, the gas, to the gas station, they were paying all those taxes as well. And they added that to the price. And the manufacturers are paying all these carbon taxes, and they're adding that to the price as well. So essentially, we're getting taxed upon taxed upon taxed. That has to change. It's my opinion, and I realize not everybody's going to agree with me, but it's my opinion that the amount of tax we're paying is theft. I think all taxes are evil, but they are a necessary evil. We need to provide, for our services. We need to provide for policing. We need to provide for military, schools, et cetera, et cetera. But we can do it a lot cheaper. And we're wasting way too much money. I think that when I was living in Japan, my income tax was 10% flat rate, and my and sales tax was 5%. It may have gone up. It may have changed since I've left. I haven't lived in Japan for over 20 years. And then you paid, if you made more than $1,200 a month back then. So this is quite a while ago. I mean, I was making half of what I made in Canada, but I was earning half of that, and I was saving more money living in Japan because it was so much cheaper, even back then at the beginning of this century. So I had taken a 3 years off of the RCMP on a leave of absence to go and teach English. And my wife is from Japan. We met here, moved to Japan, and my kids were born here, and then before we moved. So we the taxation so much cheaper in Japan. At least it was back then. If you made more than $1,200 a month, they also took, I think it was about only around $250 off of your check for a combined pension health care. That is amazing. When you consider how much tax we pay and how much we pay into our medical system, and the premiums and whatnot, and I think that I really believe that we are so mismanaged that the taxation system we have in Canada is theft. I mean, let me know, what do you think? If it was managed properly, if it was used properly, I wouldn't say that, because obviously it's a necessary evil. But most of you probably know of a guy named Moose on the Loose. I watch his stuff every now and again, and he has a segment at the end of his videos where he reviews Canada website where they look at all of the foreign spending, all of the money that Trudeau is sending to other countries, and the waste. Almost all of it has some sort of DEI statement in it, and equity and gender-based programs and stuff like that on the other side of the world. We have people living in the streets in Canada, and Trudeau is sending money to the other side of the world. So that's one of the reasons why I think that that is theft. And when they start printing money, that's actually another tax. And Pierre has talked about this quite a bit, where it's a really sinister tax, because it's a hidden tax. It's when we can't really afford to purchase things anymore because they're spending money driving up the cost of anything, and that's really a tax on us. So I've gone off on a bit of a rant here, but that's what I do. I go off on rants. You probably noticed on the screen there is a what is that? A QR code, I guess it's called. Now that's to a buy me a coffee thing. Just wanted to point that out. I'm not asking for anybody to donate, but if you're so inclined and you want to, it's you can just scan that, or there is information down in the show notes for this video of if you want to, but that's it. So what do you guys think? Now I didn't prepare all that much. I told you I've been working on the house and stuff like that. So I got these little rants going about the this liberal leadership. I think this could tear our country apart. I think back when John Turner did it, back when Mackenzie King did it, I don't think as many people were engaged. I could be wrong. Maybe people were engaged, but did they care as much? They I don't know. Like, will this be the nail in the coffin? Will we be forced to change our ways or our system in Canada? First off, I think we got to get rid of Charles III. I don't think he's a good sovereign for our nation. I don't like the idea of sending money over to some other country, or really being tied to another country in that way, especially when you consider they don't support us at all. Like we have no military support for them, from them. We have no economic support from them, and yet they control our system of government to a large extent. We're based off of their system of government, and we still swear allegiance to the king. But yet our neighbors to the south were culturally closer to, and they support us militarily, and to a certain extent, they support us economically because we trade so much with them, that it just seems odd to me that we still have this monarchy which is doing nothing but cost us money, and we're getting no real benefit from it. And it's not like I was really anti-monarch before. I really wasn't. I liked Queen Elizabeth. I've talked about this before. But I just don't see the purpose of it. And, I like the history of it. I like reading about the history. I like seeing historical shows about it. But when you get down to it, it's not about government of the people for the people. It's about government to control the people for the monarch, the monarch. And at least that's how it started. And I believe to a certain extent, the way our parliamentary system is set up, it's kind of the way it is. Because if the Liberals can go and elect somebody, choose a leader who is now going to be the prime minister until the general election, that to me doesn't speak democracy. And I know that that true democracies never really work, like mob rule and all, but we have democratic principles built into our democracy. Just, I'll use that general term. And I think they're being violated. We're being, because of this. And I really don't like that idea. I don't like the idea of us having one party, not even a majority party. They're not even a majority. They've lost the confidence of the House. They've lost the confidence of 70 to 75% of Canadians, and yet they can unilaterally decide who the next prime minister is, and that person doesn't even have to be elected. That just pisses me off. I mean, to put it blunt, that just pisses me off. I just don't like it. When you consider John Turner had to sit in a gallery when he was elected prime minister, not by the people, but by his party, I think it just shows a lot of corruption. So, and just a broken system, just an outdated, broken system. Now, I don't necessarily prefer Congress over Parliament. I like seeing the Prime Minister in the House answering questions, I know they don't answer questions, they're supposed to, but I like seeing that. And I like having, especially on Wednesdays when Parliament is sitting, that's Leaders' Day, they're all supposed to be there. It feels more open than maybe the congressional system that they have in the States. And they fill up the seats. So I like that aspect of it. There's a lot of things about the parliamentary system I like, but the fact that we don't vote for the prime minister, that's a problem for me. I think that that we should cast two votes, one for the prime minister and one for the party. So yeah, if the loser becomes the leader of the opposition, whatever, in the House, and the winner becomes the prime minister. But it probably would be a little awkward, because I know that in the last two elections, the Conservatives won the popular vote. So Pierre would have, not Pierre, I guess, who was running last time, it was O'Toole, would have been the prime minister. Sure, that would have been a little bit awkward, but we're talking creating kind of a presidential system where they're the executive. It would be really the same as what's happening in the States when they lose the Senate and the House. But I don't know how it would work. I really don't. I'm just these are ideas I've had. I don't know how they would work if ever implemented, but I do like the idea of actually voting directly for the executive. But I want to see that executive in the House answering questions on Wednesdays. So I don't know how that would work. I'm no expert in constitutional law, but since I brought up constitutional law, remember I did a video on this, and I talked about it last week as well. There's a challenge to the prorogation that's happening, and I believe the lawyers are out of the Maritimes. I'm not sure if they're from Nova Scotia or from New Brunswick, but they're from I don't think it's the one guy that I was listening to. He didn't say he was from Democracy Watch. He actually said a different name. So I don't know how many court challenges there are, or if there are two groups or multiple groups who have combined forces to do this. But today they would have had a hearing on whether or not to have an expedited hearing. So this is a hearing to decide whether they're going to have a hearing. And they were supposed to have it today. So I watched this video on Tuesday, which was an update, and they had filmed it the previous Thursday after they had some discussions. The people who were challenging, so Democracy Watch and this other group, had prepared. They had gotten in contact with the Crown, so the Department of Justice, and they had also, but they had also prepared a motion in case they didn't get consent. And it doesn't look like they're getting consent, but that would have been determined today. I just haven't seen an update. If they update it at the same pace they did last week's, then we should hear by Tuesday exactly what happened, unless we actually go and make some inquiries to their website, which I'm not really sure about finding. So the point is, this is moving forward. If they have agreed to have an expedited hearing on this prorogation, it is very possible that within a week or two, they will have the hearing. Now, as we know, in 2 weeks' time, or actually about a week and a half's time, that's the date that they were supposed to come back. So if they can manage this hearing next week, which is possible, provided the judge has time, and it's only a one-day hearing, it is absolutely possible that we could see Parliament back, if not on the scheduled date, at least within a few days of that. And I don't know what would happen there, because they did prorogue Parliament. If it's found to be unjust, do they still have to do a throne speech? I don't know. But it would bring up the possibility that the Conservatives, the Accounts Committee, would put forward the motion that they were going to put forward and have that voted on in the House. And basically it was a non-confidence motion, so they could bring it forward a lot quicker. So I hope that happens, because obviously with Trump threatening these tariffs next Monday, probably Tuesday, is his first full day in office. This is something that we really need to have somebody on the ground dealing with. And Trudeau's not dealing with it, not effectively anyway. We don't want Carney dealing with it. He is, Diane Frances described him as a greenie, which he is. He's a banker, but he's also one of these greenies. So I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that the judge hears it. It would be in the federal court. I know I've seen some people talking about it being before the Supreme Court. It's not going to be before the Supreme Court, at least not initially. It'll be in the federal court because that's the administrative court in Canada. It deals with constitutional issues, administrative law, and that kind of stuff. It would only go to the Supreme Court on second appeal because the federal court has a federal court of appeal, and then if it's appealed beyond that, it goes to the Supreme Court of Canada, because the Supreme Court of Canada is solely an appeal court. It doesn't hear cases. It doesn't hear trials or anything. So it's only an appeals court. So something has to be ruled before they hear it, and they have to give leave to hear it. It takes forever to get anything in front of the Supreme Court. The federal court, though, can work in an expedited manner. So let's keep our fingers crossed that happens, because that would throw a wrench into this whole liberal clown show, this dumpster fire that they have. And it wouldn't really, I don't know if anybody would still be around, because everybody apparently has dropped out of the race or has been disqualified except for Carney, who I believe declared today. And then it's rumored that, I don't know, maybe she did today as well, but it's rumored that it will be a couple of days from now if Chrystia Freeland decides. It could actually be that Carney decides he's or that the Liberals don't run anybody else, and he becomes the prime minister, just because nobody else runs against him. So I don't know. That's interesting. That we're getting a prime minister, and it could be that nobody votes for him. Could be that it's just because he applies for the job and nobody else in the Liberal Party wants it, and he's not even a member of Parliament. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? That to me is fairly disturbing. So with that, what I'm going to do is I know it's early yet, but I'm going to go to the chat and see what people are saying. Maybe this time I'll start with the newest ones and then work backwards and then come back to the bottom. So David says, isn't Bayless and the East Indian guy still in the race? I don't think so. I know the East Indian guy can't be, because he doesn't speak French. And part of the new rules are that you have to be bilingual. Maybe Bayless is, but I don't know. They also have to be able to raise $350,000. Well, Mark Carney can write a check. I'm not sure how many other people can do that. Mark, if Carney is successful as our new PM, WEF wins. Seriously, think about it. Hopefully it will be short-lived, but given Singh's anticipated support, we might see huge mandates being implemented. Yikes. Yes, so that's from Mike. So we don't know if Singh will keep his word. He has never kept his word before. Maybe Singh will say, will decide that he wants to, that he likes Mark Carney as the PM. So I wouldn't trust whatever Singh says. Liz, did you see him cruise up in his white Rolls Royce limo? My first thought was, hello, this is the guy who is buddy with, Gasoline Maxwell. Who else is he? Yeah, so that is something, isn't it? Like, I've seen those photos. It's unclear from the photos whether they were interacting. You know, you'd have to see before or after the photos. But it's really interesting that he was in at least 2 photos with her at a particular event, which, considering the news about the elder Trudeau 1, that guy who paid the nanny to raise Justin. It's interesting, very interesting. So I think that that would be very interesting, like if there was a connection there, and I wouldn't doubt it. I absolutely wouldn't doubt it. So how about asking your readers to study the background of Carney, Freeland, etc., and then choose? Yeah, so that's from Diane. They should, but I mean, the thing is I don't think too many liberals watch this channel. So maybe there is. Hey, if there's any liberals out there, read up on them, find out about them, because none of them are going to do Canada any good. And we will. Thank you, Brad, again. Will do any good for the country. So just scrolling backwards. So MK Archive says if Carney is winning anything, he's probably cheating. That's true. Ariel's huge mandates, UBI. Yeah, he is apparently a big proponent of universal basic income. And while that may seem like a good idea to some people, it's not. It does not encourage teenagers to get their first job and to learn and to build up a resume or anything like that. It's the more you give people without having them earn it, it is never good. And that's the left. The left is all about giving people stuff that they don't earn. So let's just go back here a little ways. You know what? I am gonna scroll all the way up to the top because it just makes more sense to me. Sorry, I know that somebody complained that I go up to the top and I start reading back the older, but it just makes more sense. So Mark Carney, this is from Jamie. He is very high up, I think, in the World Economic Forum, but I don't know for sure. I mean, I'm not an insider. Hello, Mike from Victoria. So we got another Islander here. Is this your first time here, Mike? Carney, Carney being installed is never a good thing. So Storm is from Manitoba. You know, I heard something, or I read something. I didn't hear it. I read something on Twitter X today from the CCRF. Is that it's kind of contradictory to what I've heard in the past, but apparently Winnipeg has agreed to use or allow the Winnipeg Police Service to enforce the OICs, which I think at this point should be criminal, because we know that those OICs are going to be rescinded once Pierre Poilievre gets elected. So they should be absolutely just put on hold, and they're supposed to be until after the election. And if you think about it, it's kind of like Biden selling the wall, right? If the because the Liberals are now going into stores. They've started the buyback, but only from commercial outlets. So they're wasting our money because they know that it's going to be rescinded. It's kind of like a big FU to Canadians and the taxpayers, because it's like Biden selling the wall just before Trump becomes the president and has to buy all that material back again. It should be illegal, in my opinion, but that's obviously my opinion. Yeah. Thanks for that, Paul. Yes, doing the gun course is awesome education. I think everybody should take the gun course, and I think everybody should take the gun course from me. Just saying. If you're on Vancouver Island, why not? I think you need to hold a seat to be PM. No, you don't. Unfortunately, like we talked earlier, and I just don't think that's right. Yeah, David, I do agree that there's a lot of good things in the U.S. Constitution, but again, I prefer seeing our Prime Minister in the House being grilled. I would prefer if they actually answered the questions. I don't like that Liberals are so corrupt that they won't answer questions. But I do like to see all of the leaders in the House at least once a week when the House is sitting, answering questions. So I think there's a lot of benefits to the structure, but it has to be reformed greatly. It's a waste. There's a lot of waste of money there too. I know if the U.S. had as many representatives per capita that Canada has, there would be over 3,000 members of Congress. I mean, when you look at it that way, we're throwing money away. We're really throwing money away here. Yeah. Yeah, so Paul was saying 100% we need our elections changed to only a paper vote with proper documentation set. I've done videos on this. I think most people are on side with this. At least most people who are on the right, or in the right. We call it the right because we're right. But I don't know, like, what the hell? So us and them say they're working on the North American Union. I'm not sure that anybody's actively working on it. I hope that there is. I like Dianne Francis's economic union version, and that's where Kevin O'Leary got the idea from. I don't think Kevin O'Leary is as versed in that as obviously she is, because she was the one who, in consultation with other economists, because she is an economist, I don't think that he is as versed in that. But he's not elected either, so he shouldn't be the one negotiating for us. We need somebody competent like him in government as far as knowing how business works to be, especially when you're dealing with a guy with Trump. I mean, Trump is a businessman, and he talks business. I actually I haven't read his book. I just ordered his book today. Should be here tomorrow or the next day. I know he's written more than one book, but The Art of the Deal, I want to read that because I'm pretty sure of the concept, but I want to be sure of that. But we know how he negotiates, and all this talk about taking over Greenland and taking over Panama and taking over Canada, it's all talk. whether we like the idea of it or not. It's all talk. It's never going to happen. But we need somebody who knows how to communicate with Trump, and our prime minister and our Liberal Party does not. So David says, likes the idea of Alberta, Saskatchewan becoming states. I would say BC too, but not the Lower Mainland or Victoria. I actually think that, although I would be stuck in the communist state, I think that BC should divide, Fraser Valley East. It should be its own province. And then the Lower Mainland and the island, because of the way people vote here and the political orientation. Even if, Victoria and Vancouver joined Washington State, if there was a union, and then the rest of BC either became its own state or joined Alberta, or the interior of Oregon and Washington are very conservative as well. And they've often been talking about either separating or joining Idaho as Greater Idaho, and Northern California as well, the area that is known as Franklin by many people was there was rumors that they wanted to be their own state and that they're more conservative too. So I don't know, there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. I think that during my 60 years, this is the only time I can remember there being so much talk about constitutional issues, even during, the time when Trudeau, the first Trudeau, Pierre Elliott, brought the Constitution back to Canada. I don't recall so much discussion about, changes that could possibly happen by way of referendum or whatever. I don't recall this at all. And maybe I just wasn't clued in as much back then. And I don't think any of us really were, because we didn't have the internet. But, if you think about how things have gone in Canada throughout history, has there ever been a time where people were talking as much about politics and being disgruntled, especially with the Liberal Party, as nowadays? And with the internet, I think that it's always really going to be that case. I would think. So all of a sudden, Trudeau is thinking Alberta is Canada's linchpin in all this. Where is Guilbeault counting his 240 million, I suspect? Yeah, so Alberta actually, it's my opinion that Alberta is keeping Canada together. And that if they finally got upset and pulled the pin and said, we're not taking it anymore, I can't see Canada staying together, because the East, the Maritimes gets a lot of transfer payments. Quebec gets a lot of transfer payments. Ontario doesn't, but they, with Alberta being basically the gas depot of Canada, in a sense, because we sell all of our oil to the States and then it gets refined and brought back up, which is stupid. We should have our own refineries. If they left, there would be a lot of money being sucked out of Canada and really not being put back in, especially if Trump gets his way and all of the jobs from manufacturing in Ontario go back down to the U.S., which is one of the things he's pushing for with these tariffs. Canada's in trouble as a united entity. Canada, I don't think Canada's been um, in deeper jeopardy during my entire lifetime. I might be wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think, but I think that Canada's in a bit of jeopardy right now. Let's go. Yeah, so I'm with you, Corey. It's hard to deal with the thought of losing Canada, and I don't want it to be lost. But we don't have to lose our identity. And most of the merger models, we don't have to lose our identity. It's just like the South of of the U.S. They're Dixie. The Northeast is New England. Then they've got like the Midwest. They've got all their different areas that identify. Well, I don't think that we need to necessarily lose our identity. But as you travel across Canada, I think that a lot of people recognize that the different areas of Canada are more in tuned with their adjacent states than they are with other areas of Canada. And by that, I mean, like Ontario, more in tune with New York than British Columbia, which is more in tune with Washington State, so then Alberta with kind of the Montana, Dakotas and that kind of stuff. So I think that when you look at it that way, we have a lot of diversity as far as personal identity. I was born on the East Coast, but I grew up on the West Coast. I don't consider myself to be a maritimer per se, because all of my life almost was spent on the West Coast. So, but I spent a great deal of my life also in Alberta. When I was a kid, I did for a little while, but then I served for 15 years in Alberta. So when you think about how we identify, a lot of areas of Canada more closely identify with their adjacent states necessarily than other areas in Canada. So I would like to see Canada stick together, be some sort of an entity, an identified entity. I hope it stays that way, but it won't but I mean, the only constant in life is change. So yeah. Just going through here again. I'm just going to, I think we talked about a lot of this stuff in other podcasts and stuff. So the royal family is abandoning its own walls. I'm not sure what that means. Harry, Canada should have left. Yeah, I mean, so Harry is out, or just kind of been disowned. King, royals are kind of like that though. They kick each other out all the time. They're very kind of backstabbing. But I don't know. Why do we even need a king? We don't need a king. He's no good to us. Need an elected Senate, Fern was saying. We do. But really, do we need a Senate at all? I would say that if we have a Senate, then maybe it should be a bunch of people who are well versed in human rights and constitutions, and who specifically look at the laws that the House is making, and then they say whether or not they believe it's constitutional or not. And I know that happens, but so many law, like this OIC, it should have been, there should be a a mechanism before it gets to the point of bringing it to the federal court and then up to the Supreme Court. There should be a mechanism to say, whoa, that's against the human rights of our citizens, and so we're not going to support it. I don't think the Senate does that. And I don't think that, and they're not necessarily well versed in natural rights and constitutional rights and human rights. And by that, I mean that there are inalienable rights. And this is how the U.S. Constitution is written. There are inalienable rights, meaning they were given by God, or they exist because you exist. So we don't have a body specifically that reviews all the laws that are being proposed and that says, hey, you can't do this. Now, sure, you can say we have committees, and you can say that that's the job of our of the House, but look at the OICs. The OICs, they just did it. They just did it totally, in my view, in violation of everybody's rights. If you have a corrupt government that can just, make a mandate, so a proclamation, so there he's pretending to be king, or he's acting like God, or whatever you want to call it, and he just makes this proclamation, that's not right, in my opinion. So, get rid of the Senate, at least in the way that it is structured, and have more of a body that would say, that has a focus, saying it's, they're not reviewing the law necessarily or the legislation necessarily for practical purposes, but they're reviewing it on, whether it's justified, whether it's reasonable, whether it should happen, and have them expand to reviewing what the prime minister does. That's just, kind of way I think of it. Like, why do we need a Senate the way it's structured? It doesn't do anything except slow down the process. And they're not elected. If it was a U.S. system where they're elected, could be a little bit different. Maybe I would, warm up to the idea a little bit, but I think they're useless. But, and especially since Trudeau has stacked the deck, what do they do? They don't really do anything. Okay, I think I've covered a lot of this stuff. So let's go back down to the bottom. Yeah. So who here actually thinks that an economic union would work? I think it. I actually think that an economic union would be the best solution. I would love to be paid in American dollars. One unified currency. I would love that. And what would likely happen is the same thing that happened in the European Union when they joined, is they brought up a lot of the countries that had lower currencies. They got a bump to kind of even it out. So I think that it would work. I said before, I'm not keen on the idea of and this, if it might work with two, like with the United States and Canada. If you brought in three, if you brought in Mexico, if you brought in the Caribbean, I don't think I think it would stop working, because you would get a situation like the European Union, where it's just another level of government. I don't like that. I don't like government. I don't like that level of government. That more government is bad, and that's the conservative in me. I think that people should be empowered to take care of themselves, and if you stop taking their money from them, you don't need $10 a day daycare. If you stop taking people's money, you don't need to feed people's children in school. They would be able to do it themselves if you stop taking their money. You don't need to provide free contraceptives. If you stop taking people's money, they do it themselves. And this country, this society, this whole world has now kind of evolved in a way that I'm not really fond of, because they don't like the nuclear family. They don't like, and Trudeau always says this. He went on CNN the other day saying how he is so happy he's putting all of these extra people into the workforce, but he set up the environment where they have to be in the workforce. And I don't have any problem with anybody being in the workforce that wants to be. But wouldn't it be nice if, when you had children, you could stay home and actually one parent could actually be home to raise that parent? I'm not saying it has to be, the wife. I'm not, if you watch The Unacceptable Fringe, I think is his channel. I watch him all the time. He's the stay-at-home parent. I'm not saying it has to be one gender over the other, but if you had one person who had the opportunity, if they so desired, to stay at home and raise the children, the families would be a lot better off than they are today. You pay somebody else to raise your kids, guess what? You're not getting the same quality. They're not as invested in raising your kids as you are, as the mother or the father is. And then you end up with someone like Trudeau as a result, because Maggie, she was out gallivanting all around the world, sleeping with everybody, and she's admitted this. It's not like I'm making this stuff up. She has gone on television and admitted that she considered her marriage to Pierre an open marriage. She was sleeping with everybody. She was not a good mother. And Pierre was busy doing his own thing. They paid somebody to raise Justin. And look how that turned out. So, if you give people the opportunity, if the society was built where there was an opportunity for people who, wanted to have one parent at home, because you didn't have, taxation and money printing up the yin yang to the point where nobody could afford anything unless you put two people in the workforce. Well, to me, that's just communism. They want to be able to raise. They want the government to raise your children, and I don't like it. Absolutely don't like it. Because and look at how that's worked out for us. Because our educational system has been so left for so long that how many of our children almost have to be deprogrammed when they turn 26 or whenever, and they start having their own financial responsibilities. So they're finished with university, they're now having to get their own place and be out on their own. And they realize, a lot of them, they realize they can't because they can't afford it. But then they almost have to be deprogrammed from this far left radical socialist bullcrap I don't know. That's just my opinion. So, so Tammy is saying, if you make under 70 combined income, dental has no copay. I'm not sure. Like we I think we have a copay system in Canada? I know, like, I'm a little spoiled when it comes to dental plans. I pay a premium when I go up, or not a premium, but a deductible. But that's because I pay into it. I have a dental plan. It's not free. Okay, it's not like Jagmeet Singh accusing Pierre Poilievre of, having all this free stuff. It's not free. I pay into it. I realize that a lot of people don't have that, and they should. But that's kind of a company thing, and I don't even mind so much if it was government administered. But unfortunately, the governments we've had in the last 100 years couldn't administer their way out of a paper bag. I don't trust them. But whatever. What documents are you talking about, Tammy? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Make less than 70K your combined income, you're near the poverty line. Definitely if you have more than one in your household, you are. And definitely if you've got kids. It would be so nice if you could have a parent staying at home. It's nice to have that extra income too. But, there's a lot of group plans out there. There's a lot of benefits, social benefits, I think, to raising your own kids, not paying somebody or just handing them off to the school. But then again, and people, I think that people have to be more socially responsible too, because, how many conversations do we have with our children around the dinner table anymore? If you got two parents working and your kids are, really, everybody's feeding themselves, how many of those conversations do you get? Those are good conversations if you do it right. So anyway, I think it's amazing. I've spent more time than I thought I would. I didn't have much to go on today because I've just been so busy working around the house here. So, but hey, it's been great reading the comments and whatnot. And I hope everybody got a little bit out of joining in on the conversation. I know that I saw a lot. Didn't see too many people from... I know that I did have some viewers at the beginning from Rumble, but I didn't see anybody doing that. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'm going to leave it there. I don't like to go too much over an hour. But hey, we did go over a little bit over an hour, so I'll let you guys go. I hope everybody has a great weekend. I know I'm going to have a great weekend teaching, even though it's only going to be one student. That student's going to get a lot of personal attention, and they're going to learn a lot. So, hey, I got seats available. Go to my website, send me an email, and I'll get back to you. So, yeah, if you're interested. And I'm setting up another course in February as well, if there's anybody local who I haven't set up a date on it because I've been waiting to hear back from a few people who want to take the course. But since I haven't heard back from them on a specific date, I'm just going to go ahead and set one up, and hopefully I'll get people who sign up and don't and then don't drop it at the last moment. But yeah, thanks for thanks for all the communicating and stuff like that. And I'll see you, hopefully see you next week. And that I won't be too busy. Well, I hope you do come in February, Jimmy.
You've been watching the Northwest Cavalryman Show. Thank you for tuning in this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and share with your friends and on social media. May God bless you. And if you're a liberal crybaby, bless your heart. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Thursday.